Earlier, this is an idea that really took hold. Oh my God, I thought that was a bump. It's like, oh my God. I was actually getting on the subway. It was so disgusting. I was getting on the subway this morning, and a rat this big ran right by the turnstiles, and this is the second time it happened. So I saw that thing coming. I was like, oh, New York City. Yeah. This is one of the most important ideas that emerged in terms of criminal justice during the 1980s, and really fundamentally changed the ways in which policing was done, in particular in New York City and, ironically enough, the New York City transit system. And the whole idea that you just read about, this broken windows theory of crime, can be summarized as follows. The idea is that if we reduce petty crime, like things that we normally don't arrest people for example, public urination, littering, okay? If we actually go ahead and start being more aggressive in terms of reducing petty crime, that will have two fundamental effects. The first effect is that it will signal that the community cares about its own well-being. So if we reduce the amount of litter people are throwing on the ground, if we stop public urination, if we stop people from jumping the turnstiles in the subway station, that is going to create a community-wide signal that people care about the community and they care that it's well-maintained and well-ordered. And what that will do ultimately is create another important result. And that important result is that other major crime, like stealing, like assault, other major crime will stop, and other forms of disorder will stop too. In other words, it's creating, if we stop petty crime, if we stop buildings from having broken windows for a long period of time, if we replace those windows right away, it creates a sense of community, it creates a norm and an expectation that people are going to behave within that community. It's going to then further stop major crime from proliferating. So if we stop it at this minor petty crime level, we'll ultimately send a signal that we care, and then major crime and other type of disorder will stop. Okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a theory that was really prominent in policing circles and is still, to a certain extent, in some communities. It's fallen out of favor in a lot of other communities because people thought that there was a disproportionate impact of reducing petty crime, and that minorities were being disproportionately penalized for committing these petty crimes in comparison to white people. So it has enormous racial implications from when it started during the 1980s, so the idea became more prominent. But it's really, I think, an interesting idea about crime, and again, one that's still well discussed and very well debated in criminal justice circles today. And what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about now for the remainder of class is just how we might go about testing this theory to see if it holds water. And this is sort of the fun part of social science, where we actually can conduct experiments to see whether or not this theory holds water, whether or not there's evidence or data that supports this theory. So there were a series of 5 experiments that were conducted by academics Kaiser, Lindenberg, and Steg. That's S-T-E-G. Kaiser, Lindenberg, and Steg. And this was published in 2008. The results of their experiments were, I believe that they were published in a journal called Science, okay, which is a very important and well-known publication. And what they really were trying to figure out was if they could present people with a situation where disorder was accepted versus a situation where disorder was not accepted, would there be two different types of they were looking at human behavior. So their idea was, let's create an environment that's very ordered, well kept, well ordered, and then let's create an environment where there's a lot of disorder, and let's observe how people behave in each of those two environments. And if the broken windows theory of crime holds, what should we expect in those two different scenarios? In the situation where people are presented with a really well-ordered environment, are they likely to engage in bad behavior? According to the broken windows theory of crime? No, right? If they see order all around them, they're not likely to engage in bad behavior. However, if they're presented with an environment that's disordered, okay, that somehow is, we see a lot of disorder, however defined, according to the broken windows theory of crime, are we likely to see them engaging in bad behavior or good behavior? One of two answers. I can't hear anything. So we just said, if people are, the broken windows theory of crime basically says that people respond to their environment. If we have a very well-maintained environment with no petty crime being conducted at all, people are going to understand that we care about our community, and there will be a reinforcing effect that people won't engage in other bad behavior. That's the whole theory, like in a nutshell. So these scholars said, okay, what we're going to try to do is we're going to create an environment where there's a lot of order and people sort of know what's expected of them. And then we're going to create an environment where there's a lot of disorder. And then we're going to see whether people behave well or not in each of those two environments. So if the environment is well maintained and everything looks like it's in place, are people likely to behave in good ways or bad ways? Yeah, so if people are faced with a well-ordered environment where people aren't breaking laws and everything seems fully well put together, are they likely to continue that good behavior?
Yeah.
Yes, right? If people are put in an environment where there's a lot of disorder and lawlessness, are people likely to engage in good behavior or continue that bad behavior? Continue that bad behavior, right? So these were the 5 experiments that attempted to test that idea. The first one that they did was they set up they went into an alleyway, and they went into an alleyway where people parked their bikes, okay? And what they did is like candid camera. They observed what people did from a secret location or a camera. So they weren't there actually observing. And they saw in this alleyway where bikes are parked, and they put up a no graffiti sign, okay? A no graffiti sign. And then they put pamphlets on all of the bikes that were parked there. It's just from a fake store, like, come to our sale, okay? Then they compared 2 situations. First of all, they had created a situation where there was no graffiti at all in the alleyway. And then they observed what people did when they went back to their bikes and saw this pamphlet on their car. In the alleyway without graffiti, or the environment where people were paying attention to the sign, only 33% of people littered. Okay? Only 33% of people, I'm sorry, this should be like 66 or so. Not all of these, yeah, I think this should be 67. So the alleyway without graffiti, 33% of people littered. They took the pamphlet off of their bike and they threw it on the ground. Okay. Then they went into the alleyway and they covered it with graffiti. Okay. They covered it with graffiti. And what did they find? They found that 67% of people, when faced with those circumstances, took the pamphlet off of their bike and threw it on the ground. Okay. So in this case, does the broken windows theory hold?
Yeah.
Right? People faced with a more disordered environment did worse things. Okay? Okay. So then they had another situation, their second experiment, okay? Which they had a street with a fence, okay? And in the middle of the fence, there was a gap, okay, where some people could walk through. And there were two signs that they put on, near the fence. The first, okay, was that, the first sign said, do not lock bikes to the fence, okay? And then the second sign said, do not walk through the gap in the fence. Then they created two situations. The first one was they didn't, they created a situation where no bikes were actually locked to the fence, meaning that people were conforming to the rule, right? And they observed that about 27% of the people ended up walking through that gap in the fence, like violating that other norm. However, then they created another situation where they actually locked the bikes to the fence. They created a disordered environment, right? They created this disordered environment, and what they found was that if they created this disordered environment where people were violating this sign, 82% of the people walked through the gap. So another situation where disorder creates